Welcome to Jags Drive Time with Ashlyn Sullivan, John Oehser, and Brian Sexton. Jags Drive Time starts right now.
It's definitely a tough feeling when you come all this way, especially, and you got guys that are working so hard to win and you're doing everything you can, and just not being able to finish the game there. So, but all we can do is just keep going to work, keep doing what we've been doing. We know how close we are, but that's not really that's not the point of this thing. It's to go win games, and moments like this will make it a lot sweeter when we do turn that corner and we start winning a bunch of games and doing all the things that we know we're capable of here, and I got no doubt that's going to happen. But I got to play better, and I'll leave it at that. I didn't play well enough today to win.
Trevor Lawrence post-game against the Broncos in London. Welcome into Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday. A lot to talk about for that game and a lot to talk about in the trade deadline, as this is our first show back since that game in London. Welcome in, Brian, John, and Ashlyn here with you. A lot to discuss. A lot has happened so far. All right, let's go into it. Big thing one is Calvin Ridley, the Jaguars trading for the Falcons wide receiver yesterday before the trade deadline was up at 4 o'clock. A proven game changer when healthy. And there is certainly a twist here. He will remain suspended through this season for gambling last year, and he will apply for reinstatement into the NFL in February when that happens. Hopefully, he will then become an official member of the Jaguars. I'll talk much more about this later on in the show as we get into big thing two, which is a target. There is a target right now on the Jaguars defense. While they did some good things against the Broncos, the biggest issue is they could not get off the field when it matters most. And everyone will talk about Trevor Lawrence and how he struggled against the Broncos, and he absolutely did. But we also need to talk about this defense and when it is on the line, they can't get off the field. It's a big picture look right now for Doug Peterson.
These are obviously, these last couple of weeks are tough to take, especially as hard as the guys work and play. What I'm proud of is the guys they're playing for 60 minutes, right? They're playing to the end. If I had to pick, I'd rather pick these types of games than blowout games where you lose. I think you learn more in losses like this as a team, where we are with the culture of our team, than you would in a blowout loss. And my hat's off to the guys. Nobody's gonna, like I said, nobody's gonna hang their heads. We just got to keep fighting.
And finally, big thing three is belief. It is going to take some belief to keep that head held high for this franchise, and belief in a young team, a new coaching staff, and especially belief in a young quarterback.
We still have a lot of trust and a lot of faith in him, and we're just going to continue to grow. We're going to grow together, and I just told him to keep his head up, stay confident. I want to put the ball back in his hands and just show the trust that I have in him and that the team has. Got to be better in a few situations, but those are just, again, those are really good learning opportunities for Trevor.
And there you have it. Those are big things. We will have Atlanta Falcons play-by-play Wes Durham joining us shortly on the program. But before we get into this big Calvin Ridley trade, I want to talk briefly about the game because we haven't had the chance to against the Broncos. They fall to 2-6. It's a 5-game losing streak. It's the same old story. It's a close game. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, won. This is where this team is at right now. And now we will have to talk about the keeping the head held high storyline.
I didn't get the sense that's a problem with Trevor. If you watch the body language, and again, I'm somebody that does, I'll take umbrage with a word that you used. You said struggled. And I wouldn't say struggled because he moved the ball against a very good defense. I want to use the word stumbled, right? He stumbled into another stupid play, the throw into the end zone, right? He stumbled into making the throw, getting locked into Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones is running wide open underneath. It isn't that he can't do it. It's that he hasn't done it, right? And the question now is, will he do it? I believe that he will, which is where the belief comes in, because I see it. But he's stumbling right now, and it's Doug and Press and Jim Bob and Mike's job to get him off of the stumble-bumble train.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this is the story. There's three things for this team. Trevor, inconsistency, red zone turnovers, and defense not holding the lead.
Yeah.
If you had all those things different, you'd probably be 7-1. But those are huge things in the NFL. Major story. I agree with Schlin. defense is a big storyline, but in the long run, that I believe as you add pieces moving forward over years, that's going to work itself out. Trevor's a huge story. Doug firmly believes the year 2 in the system next year, these inconsistencies are going to start to sort of grow out and even out. I believe that too, partly because I trust Doug Peterson knows quarterbacks. But Trevor can't play like he did the other day. It was not just one play. It was a lot of plays, and I thought after the first touchdown, once that interception happened, I thought he lost confidence a little bit. Which makes sense. You're a young player. We're seeing the growth, the maturation, and we don't know what's at the end.
Except
and it's intriguing.
Except that he took them down the field and gave them the lead.
For sure.
So he's shown the ability to do that. He put them all the way down the field against the Giants, and they came up a yard short. He had that masterful 18-play drive in Indianapolis. He is showing you signs that he can do it. It isn't getting done consistently. And then you have a huge problem on defense. And I don't even know where to go with it, because you can't put it all on that one corner, but that one corner is such a black hole, right? And what you saw there was the exact same thing that we saw on opening day in Washington. The corner lost outside leverage, and the safety was nowhere to be found. Everyone knew where the ball was going. The quarterback, the wide receiver, the corner, everyone knew. And still, they gave up that play. That can't happen. Can't happen.
If it's Shaq Griffin, Trey Herndon,
Especially
no matter
with
what, who's in there.
A third-string offensive tackle and a backup center and a backup right tackle. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the guys you paid up front are supposed to make plays and help the guy who's in and shouldn't be. Right. There's a lot of different angles to the defense.
Yes, a lot to talk about. And that's when Coach Peterson says in post-game, hey, our playmakers have to make plays. That's the perfect example of that in that moment. All right, that is big things. Way more to talk about as we bring up this Calvin Ridley trade with Wes Durham, Atlanta Falcons play-by-play coming up on Jaguars Drive Time.
Hey Jags fans, Brian Sexton for Dreamfinders Homes. In a complex housing market, do decisions on the biggest purchase of your life stress you out? At Dreamfinders Homes, they can build the home of your dreams in one of their many communities in Northeast Florida. With a mortgage company in-house, they're here to assist you throughout the entire process. Choose from their wide range of single-family homes or townhomes from the 300,000s. Dreamfinders Homes specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. Call 904-590-2545 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
Your hometown gate now has more ways to save. Introducing My Gate Rewards, a new loyalty program with member-exclusive savings and fuel discounts. Earn points on in-store purchases, take advantage of special offers, and save on products you love. Score free coffee, fountain drinks, pizza, and soft serve with Gates frequent shopper clubs. Then use your points on savings at the pump. Download the My Gate Rewards app in the App Store today or ask a store associate for more information. Go from good to Gate.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at TIAA Bank Field, because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bono's is currently expanding its brand with franchise opportunities throughout the Southeast and beyond. Over 70 years of authentic Southern pit barbecue and owning your own business are a great combo. Go to bonosbarbq.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
For 9 years, Dreamfinders Homes have been proud to call themselves the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit dreamfindershomes.com for all available inventory. We're back, Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday, breaking down this trade deadline and this big trade for the Jaguars. Calvin Ridley to the Jaguars, and no one better to bring on Jaguars Drive Time than Wes Durham, Atlanta Falcons play-by-play, joining us now. Wes, thank you for waking up with us.
Good morning, Ashlyn. How are you?
We are doing great, very excited about this trade, and a lot to talk about with this. But I think big picture, Wes, what kind of player are the Jaguars getting with Calvin Ridley?
Well, when he left the field at the front end of last year, Calvin Ridley, I thought, was one of the 10 best wide receivers in the National Football League. And when you go back and look at his career in Atlanta, when he stepped away from the field a year ago, he had played in less than 50 games and yet was averaging almost 15 yards or 14 yards a catch. And so I think you're getting, number one, a relatively young wide receiver who's got some veteran presence about him, which is probably a good thing. I mean, less than 50 games and the success he's had is probably exactly what Doug Peterson and those guys were looking for. And I think he'll be a guy that Trevor can lean on early because he's going to be anxious to get back on the field after not only the mental health situation, but obviously the suspension this year. And I think he's going to want to make an impact in his new home.
You know, the minute I saw, Wes, good morning, that the trade went through, I thought, there's our reason to finally have Wes Durham on Jags Drive Time. I mean, we've been looking for one
wait a
forever,
second. Don't I get credit? Don't I get credit to coming from Cartersville, Georgia to the show this morning since this is Lawrence's hometown? Don't I get credit for that too?
No, you do. And I think we have to have a conversation about Trevor Lawrence as well, since you are right down the street from his boyhood home. But I want to ask you if you think that Calvin Ridley qualifies as that top competitor. You know, the quality that scouts are looking for. The guy that every time he's on the field, he wants to win, whether it's a 3-yard pass or whether it's going up at the goal line to pull it in like Terry McLaurin did against the Colts the other day. Is he a top competitor? Will he fight like hell to get back on the field in 2023?
You know, Brian, I think he's going to because I think he's missed it that much. Look, he took himself off the field a season ago, and then the league took him off the field this year. So once you kind of knock the proverbial rust off, I think he's going to be back toward form. The question I have is I've never seen anybody but Matt Ryan throw him a pass. So there's going to have to be that synergy developed with Trevor, and I think that's very possible, certainly in Jacksonville. The other aspect about him is he's got an edge about him. I mean, just to give you an example, a year ago before the season started, Atlanta did these combined practices ahead of their preseason game at Miami, and Xavier Howard and all these other cats at Miami started down the road on Ridley, and he torched them. And everybody keeps telling me what a good secondary that is, and he lit them up again at the beginning of last year in the training camp practices. So when he wants the competitive button and the competitive juice push, Calvin Ridley is more than able to do it. And I think you're going to get him, and I may miss on this one. I'm not going to lie to you. I think you're going to get him at the full tilt because of the circumstances that have taken him off the field the last, what will almost be 18 full months, I guess.
Wes, when he's right, obviously the yards per catch is very good for the NFL right now. When he's right, is he pure deep speed guy? How does he manufacture those yards per catch? What kind of receiver is he?
Well, obviously the speed element is a huge part of what he does, but I would also tell you, too, he's very good in traffic. You got to remember he played here with Julio Jones for a couple of years, and while Julio was the go, or maybe the cross, Calvin was the opposite guy. And in essence, when Julio was out of here at the beginning of last year, Calvin had to become all those things. And that's why Atlanta was comfortable with him in that role until he decided to step away 5 games into a 6-game campaign last season. But I do think he is an impact guy. In fact, when I heard he was going to Jacksonville, I kind of said, well, that makes sense. You've got Kirk, you've got some tight end play, but you need a guy who can be the other guy, if you will. And I think he's clearly got a chance to be the other guy, and he maybe can become the star guy for you. But his best football, I still believe, as I said at the top, less than 50 games into his career, I still think his best football may be ahead of him.
All right, let's talk about Cartersville's favorite son. And we should say, I think your wife has worked with Trevor's mom.
No, they know one another. They know one another. So, and I know Jeremy. And look, he's, I got to meet him, and you know this story. I saw him for the first time before his sophomore year in high school. So I've kind of seen the full legacy, if you will, of what he's done.
All right, so are you surprised that he's making the same error, right? The throw into the end zone that cost him against the Texans last week in London. Are you surprised that he's not thriving yet, or do you just figure that's the rise of a young quarterback? And by the way, for folks who don't know, you watched Matt Ryan come in as a youngster and work his way up. So, give us the view from Cartersville on Trevor Lawrence.
Well, obviously there are a lot of 16 jerseys running around up here in Falcon territory still, by the way, right? I think the I think the stuff he's going through now is what you would have gone through in a typical rookie year had he had a typical rookie year. And I'm not trying to write off the bad chapters of what's happened in Jacksonville the last, year and a half or so, but I think Doug Peterson's a perfect coach for him. And I told you that when I saw you in the preseason. And the reason I think he's the perfect coach is because of his track record. And I think the maturation process of the quarterback is just a year behind schedule because of all the stuff that went on a year ago. And look, am I surprised the stuff happened the other day? Yeah, I am a little bit. In fact, I was watching the game, getting ready for our game against the Panthers, and I saw the throw, and I'm like, man, that's a bad throw. How did that happen? And I heard you at the top say, he had the other throw available and didn't take it. He can only speak to that process. But I will tell you the one thing is I've always found out with him is that he's wired to get better. Even when you think he's reached the top of it, Brian, I think he's still wired to improve. And I think now this process of learning and going through these experiences now with Coach Peterson will benefit him, and I would like to think the Jaguars down the road for sure.
That is the perfect perspective. Thank you. I think that's what people needed to hear, because if you consider this to be his rookie season with Doug Peterson, he's 8 games into this thing, and people are panicking. Plus, he doesn't have that huge target, that alpha dog receiver, and that he's wired to get better is what everybody needs to hear. Wes, you are the best, my friend.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yes, Wes. We all needed that perspective this Wednesday morning. Thank you for that, and thank you so much for joining us on Jaguars Drive Time.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much. When we come back on the Jaguars Digital Network, some of This or That, presented by Price.com.
Hey Jags fans, Brian Sexton for Dreamfinders Homes. In a complex housing market, do decisions on the biggest purchase of your life stress you out? At Dreamfinders Homes, they can build the home of your dreams in one of their many communities in Northeast Florida. With a mortgage company in-house, they're here to assist you throughout the entire process. Choose from their wide range of single-family homes or townhomes from the 300,000s. Dreamfinders Homes specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. Call 904-590-2545 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
Jags fans, this is Shaquille Griffin. I'm going to share some of my secrets for competing in the NFL. First, the field is no place for hunger. Growing up, I got big and strong eating boiled peanuts. Today, our team is serious about fueling our bodies, and that means popping open some protein-packed peanuts from Luray's Peanuts. It's the same boiled peanut flavor I used to love eating as a kid, but with superfood nutrition that lets me tear it up on the field. Pick Luray's boiled peanuts at all Jaguar home games, or pick up a few bags at the grocery store and fuel up at home.
At 5-Star Credit Union, you inspire them to go the extra mile to meet your financial needs. That's why they offer Jaguars fans more banking options like better rates and no hidden fees. Their team is also dedicated to making the communities they serve stronger, volunteering their time and talents while donating millions to local nonprofits. 5-Star Credit Union, 5starcu.org. Go Jags!
Price.com is the easiest way to save money with comparison shopping, cashback, coupons all in one. It's free. Try Price.com today.
This or that. This or that.
We're back, Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday, getting ready for This or That, presented by Price.com. We met the Price.com ownership in London at the Fulham game, and they were the coolest, nicest people.
Well, I'm glad you're happy.
I am. They were very cool, very down to earth.
Do they like this segment?
They do. They watch this segment, and I think they just came up with the coolest idea ever for Price.com.
Awesome.
So, hello from Los Angeles. That's where they live. So they're up very early, probably watching this live.
So you're happy, they're happy.
Yep.
They like this segment, this or that?
Yes.
Well, what's not to like? There's this, there's that. I mean,
and this.
Setting him up perfectly as you always do.
Yes. Brian, what do you got?
Risk or reward? Real simple. What is greater, the risk? You've got a young man who has spent 18 months out of football, who stepped away with, some mental issues. Sounds bad. He was trying to protect his mental health, right? Which is admirable. So there is some risk. But when you watch this kid, when you watch the highlights of this kid, when you understand what this team needs so desperately, the reward. So what has the potential to be greater?
Oh, huge the reward. I mean, I got a lot of emails from people, oh, he's not helping them this year. Why'd they take this chance? First of all, it's not a big risk. It's a 5th-round pick, and my understanding of the conditional is that if he's good and signs a second deal, then it's a 5th and a 2nd. Well, for all the reasons, they need the position. He might be a top 10, as Wes Durham said, top 15 guy. And if you dig deep, they were going to have to try to find this in the draft next year. Mm-hmm. Plus, they're going to have to try to find a corner in the draft next year. Plus, it's not like this team's got a whole bunch of impact players running around. There's some, but it's not like they can't use other people in the draft next year. If you got this without having to burn off a top, say 12 draft pick, then it's a masterstroke. There's no, I don't think it's much of a risk, and I think the reward's high. Yes. Yay.
Yay. And I understand fans saying, well, he's not helping this year. Why does this matter? No one wants to hear, but you're 2-6 right now. And if this is a guy that can help you next season, would you rather trade for someone who is lesser of Calvin Ridley right now to win you 3 more games? No. This is a big picture look at the team. You hear Coach Peterson say it every day. If this is a Trevor Lawrence weapon next season, yeah, count me in.
Plus, Brian, I think you were going to go here anyway. If you were getting a player who was guaranteed to help you right now, it was going to cost you a first, a second, a first,
right?
Your firstborn. I mean, the whole ball of wax.
100%.
And that's really the thing. They have a roster to build here. I don't think this team could afford to make a Devontae Adams trade where you take 2 firsts, a second, you start doing salary cap. They had to do something creative to be able to do this and the other things they're going to need.
I agree with you. This is a bold, it could be a very masterful stroke. 2 things that stand out. One is, you said big picture, it's big picture. If you think the Jaguars are just focused on 9 games, you now understand how they're looking at this, right? This was never just about 2022. This was about 23, 24. This is about a long-term plan, and we can see what the Jaguars are at 2-6. Incomplete. This is a move for the long term with their quarterback. And the other thing is, and I wrote it for Quick Thoughts, John, these guys don't get to the marketplace. Devontae Adams was tagged and then traded for a first and a second, right? And then the Raiders had to give him a $140 million contract. And then Tyreek Hill, who was the other big guy who went last year, was a 1, a 2, 2 4s, a 5, and a 6. Oh. And they had to give him a $100 million contract. Each of those guys is making $30 million a year. It costs too much.
The Jaguars aren't there yet.
These guys don't get to the market. If Calvin Ridley is reinstated, and I'd have to take the educated guess that when the Jaguars dug around and did their homework on this, somebody at the league office said he's okay, right? I mean, he's doing the right things.
They're not doing this blindly.
Yeah, right. As long as he doesn't have any relapses, right? There's a good chance that he'll be back in football.
Yeah, if they're doing it blindly, it's
I can't imagine that. Yeah,
which I can't imagine they are either. And the risk to me at this stage of their development would have been making a Devontae Adams move.
Yeah.
Not a knock on Devontae Adams. I'm talking about giving up that kind of capital for
so much. Yeah.
receivers who are beyond that second year.
Yeah.
Ridley's 27. There's a school of thought among some teams in the NFL that you don't pay that receiver in that second contract because you're paying so much and you're paying the aging player. Ridley's not an aging player yet. 27, probably has until he's 30 or 31 before you even think about a decline. So on those fronts, there's risk to every move.
You bet.
But on this one, I think capital and the way you're trying to construct this team, I don't think it's a huge risk.
One more thing. He's an $11 million cap hit next year, which if you look at the top receivers who are well over 20 into the 25, man, that's a bargain.
In a realistic notion, this is most likely replacing a Marvin Jones because there was questions of whether the Jaguars would re-sign him. This, to me, makes sense where Calvin Ridley then steps into that position.
Only in the sense that you're taking his roster spot. This is a significant upgrade.
Oh, for sure.
This is an alpha.
Absolutely.
one,
But it's
right?
taking that spot, that cap, that money, all of that. John, what do you got?
I have Travis Etienne, who, this is purely for conversational purposes.
Sure.
Travis
Which is what we do on the show.
Is he a Rushmore Jaguars running back, or is it too early to tell? Well, to me, it's obviously too early to tell. Yeah. But I put it out there because you have Rushmores on this franchise who are elite guys. To me, Fred Taylor's a Hall of Famer. Maurice Jones-Drew, had he played at a level for a couple of more years when he was at his absolute peak, as good as there was in the NFL when he played.
He was the league's leading rusher in 2011
Yeah.
on the worst passing team in football. That's hard to do when everyone's focused on you.
Yeah, and you've had other guys, Rushmore, but is he going to be at those guys' level? A month ago, I'd have told you it was insane to think about that. But this kid's really good, Brian. I mean, like, he's so much different and better than I expected. Even if he wasn't fast, and he's really fast, he hasn't shown that breakaway thing that Fred had, but maybe 10 guys in history have. So it's his vision that's really impressive, and it's his toughness that's really impressive.
And his agility.
He's a much more complete back than I ever imagined him being.
The play that he made on the 49-yarder where he got to the sideline and his momentum was taking him out of bounds, and he planted that foot and then shot up the sideline, that's beyond special, right? He would take where it looked like he was going to get stopped for no gain and squirt through and find 6 yards on first down. And I think it bears, yes, I think he is that caliber of athlete, right? It's still too early to tell. But it's worth remembering that he had a Liz Frank. I saw Corey Grant here during Legends Week, right? Corey never played again when he had that. And Corey was equal in terms of speed and explosiveness. That he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's a tremendous football. He is that guy that defensive coordinators go, how do we stop him? How do we figure him out?
Yeah.
We've been waiting for that to show up. We need more of those. But, John, I think the answer is his talent level is extreme. If he stays healthy, he's got the ability. And if the Jaguars, if Calvin Ridley's what we hope he is, right, all of this would be a lot easier for
Then
this
that only
kid.
helps him,
Yeah.
right?
Well, now all of a sudden you're starting to stockpile some guys who can make plays. I think Kirk will get better with the Ridley addition,
totally.
and you have ETM. That's 3 guys. I think Devin Lloyd's going to be that guy on defense. All of a sudden, compared to what we were a year ago, you got 3 or 4 guys who you can start saying, yeah, they're legitimate NFL playmakers. So it's all got to work out, but that's the feeling I got off the Ridley trade, accompanied by ETN improving over the last month. Now all of a sudden you got some guys.
Yeah.
Need more guys. That's the key to
Got
the
guys.
equation. All right, draft compensation, this or that. Calvin Ridley or a second-round draft pick. There are a lot of wrinkles to this trade. A 5th-round pick. If he makes the team, it's a 4th-round pick. If he hits a big play milestone, in quotations, we don't know what that is. It's a 3rd-round pick. If Calvin Ridley is signed to a long-term extension with the Jaguars, it is a 2nd-round pick going to the Falcons. I look at this as Calvin Ridley would earn that long-term extension. It's not like the Jaguars are blindly giving away a 2nd-round pick. That would all be on Ridley if this turns into a 2nd-round pick. But let's say, best example, big picture, that does happen. Would you rather have Calvin Ridley, or would you rather have that 2nd-round pick back?
Let me tell you a quick story. In Dallas in 2018, Jaguars were picking 29th. And when they turned the corner to 20, I got a list of 3 names that the Jaguars were looking for. So prepare to interview one of these 3 guys. So get ready. And they were Hayden Hurst, the tight end, the Bulls kid.
Yep.
The linebacker from Alabama, Rashaan Evans, and wide receiver Calvin Ridley. I mean, the Jaguars were dialed in, and Ridley was at the top of the list. He was the guy they wanted the most. And, of course, the Falcons swooped in and grabbed him, I think, at 24, 25. You'd much rather have this than a 2nd-round pick because this is a guy who comes in as an impact player. He did as a rookie, by the way, at the bottom of the 1st round. So, yeah, you'd rather have this guy who knows the game, who can quickly step onto the field and be a contributor than a 2nd-round pick that might take you longer than that.
Yeah, it's not close. I obviously rather have Ridley. I think another key here to this trade, as Brian alluded to a second ago, if you sign a free agent, they're probably older. If you draft a guy, he's going to be younger. He's going to be 23, 22, and historically it can take some time. I think the edge to Ridley is if he comes back and he's the player he was in 2020, you have a turnkey guy who's ready to go, who's proven he can do it in the NFL. Yeah. And he doesn't have to have as much adjusting to figuring out what this league's about. Again, he's got some rust to shake off.
Sure.
New quarterback to figure out.
But this feels, as long as the kid has his life in order, which I hope he does for his sake, then this feels like almost a no-brainer.
Yeah, and it's important to note, you're talking about your quarterback's third year. It's a pivotal year in the development of a quarterback. So getting this guy, and again, we're all working to the caveat that he will be reinstated. He can reapply or apply for reinstatement mid-February. But to have a threat like this with some experience, so not just a rookie that you're hoping can pick it up quickly, is really important for Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely. And that is This or That, presented by Price.com. When we come back on Jaguars Drive Time, some closing thoughts.
Hey Jags fans, Brian Sexton for Dreamfinders Homes. In a complex housing market, do decisions on the biggest purchase of your life stress you out? At Dreamfinders Homes, they can build the home of your dreams in one of their many communities in Northeast Florida. With a mortgage company in-house, they're here to assist you throughout the entire process. Choose from their wide range of single-family homes or townhomes from the 300,000s. Dreamfinders Homes specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. Call 904-590-2545 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
Crown Royal's That Deserves a Crown program recognizes local heroes for making a positive impact in the community. The Jaguars and Crown Royal are giving back to those who serve this season, celebrating these individuals with the ultimate VIP Jaguars home game experience. Nominate someone who deserves a crown today at jaguars.com/Crown Royal promotion. Please drink responsibly.
Your hometown gate now has more ways to save. Introducing My Gate Rewards, a new loyalty program with member-exclusive savings and fuel discounts. Earn points on in-store purchases, take advantage of special offers, and save on products you love. Score free coffee, fountain drinks, pizza, and soft serve with Gate's frequent shopper clubs. Then use your points on savings at the pump. Download the My Gate Rewards app in the App Store today or ask a store associate for more information. Go from good to Gate.
Jaguars Game Day Radio is brought to you by VyStar Credit Union. Do good, bank better. We're back for one more segment on Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday morning. Busy week ahead as the Jaguars get ready for a home game against the Raiders this Sunday. But one more point on the trade deadline coming to a close yesterday afternoon at 4 o'clock. The biggest name by far in Jacksonville was Josh Allen. And we kept hearing about all these calls that were being made and the questions of would the Jaguars, with enough capital, trade Josh Allen. He is still here. He is still with the Jaguars. And it seems to be he is a cornerstone player that they did not get enough for.
Yeah. You looked at teams that were going up for Brian Burns in Carolina, and reportedly the Rams were throwing future first-round picks at them, and they said, no, you don't find pass rushers, especially guys with the talent of Josh Allen, just hanging around. I would say he's a cornerstone, even though he told me last week in the locker room he knows he hasn't played to the level that he needs to play to. I was convinced last week that he was going to have a breakthrough game against the Broncos. I still think you're going to see it from him because he's the kind of guy on the field, in the classroom, off the field that you want to build your team around. And I still think he's a guy that you can do that with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Josh, he would tell you this. The team's in a tough spot with him because he hasn't had those sack numbers. At the same time, this is what I keep going back to with Josh. If I look out there on a Sunday when I'm covering a game and I look up and I see a trainer around a player, he's the last guy on defense that I want to see down on the field.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want this team playing without him.
You're totally right.
And while he hasn't had those huge sack numbers, I just feel like they would miss him incredibly if he's not here. So that's their dilemma. Hadn't quite been what you hoped in terms of numbers, but boy, is he important to what they do. And I don't know that you want to. I don't know that you want to be going and looking for another one of them.
No, because you don't find guys with his size, speed, and intangibles. A quick story. I go out on the field on Wednesdays right before practice ends to get a coach, right, for pregame radio. And as they break up and guys start coming off the field, Josh is the last guy to leave the field. He's hooking himself up to this machine that causes resistance when he's running sprints. He's pushing his teammates. He's working the bag. Josh Allen works so hard. Kind of like we're talking about Trevor Lawrence having that breakthrough moment. Maybe it's on the same Sunday. Maybe it's this Sunday that Josh Allen has the same thing and comes through with a Buffalo-like performance last year, which nobody should have forgotten about, how special he was that day. There's a breakthrough moment coming for him, I think.
Yes, and he is still here. It was thinking about it, and you saw the reports and you saw what teams were calling for, I was thinking of a locker room without Josh Allen.
You don't want that.
It was just weird to think about. It was a weird feeling to think about that. And you don't get that with every single player.
No.
All right, and that is Jaguars Drive Time on a Wednesday morning. Much more to come on Jaguars.com all week long. We will be back with you right here, Jaguars Drive Time, tomorrow morning, 9:30. We'll see you then.